Look at this. I thought this was very cute. Number 13. And look, please do not pull down on the safety bar. We are going to be talking about Haunted Mansion today. We're going to watch every single film and televised version of it that I could find. We're also going to be listening to the record. We are getting Haunted Mansion crazy right before Halloween. First up, we have this record. This is called The Story and Songs of the Haunted Mansion.
Have you ever seen a haunted house? You know the kind I mean. Windows are broken and boarded, and the shutters hang loose on their hinges.
Now, this was released in 1969 by the Walt Disney Company. It is the story of two teens, Mike and Karen, played by Ron Howard and Roby Lester, because at that time it was rather uncommon to have young people do the voice of young people. So Roby Lester was a much older actress than Ron Howard. They're both playing teenagers. Ron had already done the Andy Griffith Show, and he was a pretty well-known actor. And the two of them end up trapped inside of the Haunted Mansion.
Oh, Mike, look at that rain come down. We'll never get home on time.
Sure we will. It's not quite midnight.
Takes place during a terrible thunderstorm, and these two teens got to find someplace to seek shelter. So they go onto the porch of the Haunted Mansion, and then the boy convinces the girl, let's investigate. The door's open. Let's go check out this creepy old mansion on a terribly creepy night. Now take a listen to the ghost host.
Good evening. Welcome, foolish mortals.
Who said
I
that?
think it came from that marble statue.
So that's a difference between this version and all the other versions. The ghost host is actually one of the busts that you would see inside of the mansion. When this record came out, the ride hadn't opened yet. So there were some elements of the ride that hadn't been clarified and set in stone and built. And so some changes took place. And so this is an interesting difference. Ghosts all materialize. They seek shelter in the attic, and that's where they run into the Hatbox Ghost. Now, if you've ridden the ride in the past decade, you're like, yeah, Hatbox Ghost, he's in the ride, right? But the Hatbox Ghost was not in the ride until 2015. So from there, they end up out on a balcony. They go down a staircase into the backyard where there's a graveyard. There's a ghostly jamboree taking place, and a ghost follows them home.
There's that raven again.
Beware, my friends! Ah, ah! They may try to follow you home! Ah, ah!
It's good, it's charming, and it's an excellent version of the ride. They put out a Viewmaster of the Haunted Mansion. I love this. I think this is great. I mean, it's the Haunted Mansion. It's in 3D. The rest of these are all visual, so let's go up to the theater. I got some hours of Haunted Mansion to sit through, and I'm glad you're here for the ride.
Welcome, foolish mortals.
All right, first up, we've got the 2003 Haunted Mansion movie. This is the one starring Eddie Murphy. This one is directed by Rob Minkoff, which is kind of an unusual choice for this. He's the director of The Lion King, the original animated Lion King. He also directed Stuart Little, so that kind of has similar effects, but Haunted Mansion is a tough one to get right because you've got to have the spooky, you've got to have the funny, and we'll see if he's the right person to bring it.
Here it is right here, okay?
All right, interesting movie. It's not good, though. There's a lot that's wrong with it. I think a big part of it is the writer was David Berenbaum, who had written Elf, and this has all the earmarkings of Elf, which I love. But Elf is not the Haunted Mansion, and I feel like the tone for this is just all wrong.
Is anybody here? We're the Evers from Evers and Evers Real Estate.
The plot of this one focuses on Jim and Sarah Evans, which is Eddie Murphy and his wife. They have two kids. Eddie Murphy's character is a workaholic, and this is pitched as a very bad thing in this movie. This was a trope that I remember from a lot of films around this era. I remember there was a movie with Robin Williams that was called RV, which had the same story, which is, oh my God, this dad, he just works so hard. His kids hate that he's just working so hard to make all this money. I think the plot of Jingle All the Way is the same as this. So he's a workaholic. He won't stop working. His wife and kids are just like, come on, Dad, you gotta stop working. He misses his wedding anniversary to show this house because he's a real estate agent, and the house, of course, turns out to be the Haunted Mansion.
This house has a bit of history to it, and this history haunts these walls.
I don't think it's a good idea to put that information in the listing.
We've got Master Gracie in the movie, and then he believes that Eddie Murphy's wife looks like his dead wife, so he puts a curse on her. There also is Jennifer Tilly doing a great job as Madame Leota.
Dark spirits from the grave, come forth.
Don't you make no dark spirits come out while I'm sitting. Wait till I leave before the dark spirits come out.
I think part of the problem with this movie is it came out shortly after the Pirates of the Caribbean, which was such an enormous hit. And I feel like the expectations were so high that this is going to be the next one. And I almost think that if I was thinking in the time period 2003, I would probably expect this to be better than Pirates of the Caribbean. And it's not. All right, next up, we've got Muppets Haunted Mansion from 2021.
Turn it down, I can't hear myself think. Take 5, everybody. Break time, break time. I love these portraits. The subjects look vaguely familiar.
Okay, this was a blast. This was a lot of fun to watch. There are some negatives to it and some positives. Gonzo has to spend the whole night in the Haunted Mansion. And if he does, he wins some kind of a prize. And for Gonzo, of course, he has to do this. This is like another endurance test, another challenge. And Gonzo can't turn down a challenge. He's always wanting to, ride his bicycle off the roof or whatever stunt he can do. And so Gonzo's kind of the perfect character to put in the Haunted Mansion. They pair him up with Pepe, the King Prawn. Now, I wasn't really happy about that. I remember at the time thinking, why is this not Rizzo the Rat, who had been with him in Muppet Treasure Island and Muppet Christmas Carol? And the two of them are so perfect. Now, Pepe the King Prawn is a very funny character, and he fits in perfectly with Gonzo. I miss Rizzo, and I don't think you could have all three of them. I feel like you do have to have one or the other, and I guess that's the way that Disney wanted to go with this.
You fail this endeavor, then you must remain here forever.
I'm out of here!
So Gonzo's staying the night in the mansion. Pepe's just along for the ride. Now, both of them have to miss Kermit's party, and this is probably the most you see of Kermit. There is a scene with him later in this sort of like Haunted Mansion creepy scene, but we see him and Miss Piggy at his party. They're dressed as each other.
Piggy thought it would be funny if we both...
Guess who I am? I'm Kermit, and Kermit is me, get it?
Everybody's kind of sad Gonzo's not going to be at the party, but they know, they're like, oh, of course, Gonzo, you got to spend the night in a Haunted Mansion. I'm also on Gonzo's side for missing this. I don't want to go to a work Halloween party if I have a choice to go to the Haunted Mansion. I wish that this was a little sillier, a little bit more fun. I felt like they had a list of things that they wanted to check off, like, we must do this, we must show this, we must show this. And by the time they got to the end of the relatively short running time, I felt exhausted just from seeing all of it. There were a lot of great cameos in this. Pat Sajak showed up as one of the singing busts. Hey, big shout out to everybody on Patreon: Matthew, David Chapin, Chris, Cheese God, and Michael and Jessica. All right, the most recent Haunted Mansion movie came out in 2023. It is directed by a man who's best known for directing a Netflix show called Dear White People, which I don't know that sounds like, that documentarian is who you're going to grab to do the Haunted Mansion movie, but they did, and this movie was a massive hit. I do remember seeing this in the theater, and I liked it a lot. Wasn't that long ago. I'm excited to check it out again. All right, this was interesting. It was a good movie. I think the tone was perfect. It had a lot of stars. If you're an older person and you don't know a lot of today's movie stars, this is one of those movies where you look around at the leads and you're like, I don't know who they are, but I recognize Tiffany Haddish. I recognize Owen Wilson. I certainly know who Danny DeVito is. I know who Jared Leto is. Madame Leota is in this movie, played by Jamie Lee Curtis. This film's about a single mother played by Rosario Dawson. She's very good. She's always charming on screen, has a great presence, and she plays a single mom in this. She meets up with a guy who's kind of like a ghost hunter, but he's down on his luck. He's a drunk. He's your typical guy who's going to have that arc from being, a loathsome, bottom of the barrel human being to being, the hero at the end of the film that we want the woman to end up with. Owen Wilson is a con man posing as a priest. Danny DeVito is a ridiculous conspiracy theory guy. He is playing Danny DeVito, and it is perfect. The film's over 2 hours, and it feels too long. I felt that this should have tightened up a bit. I felt like is this haunted movie actually stretching? Yes, I feel it was. But we did hit all of the hallmarks of the Haunted Mansion, and I thought it was probably the best adaptation that they've done so far. Oh, that was fun. Got to see a lot of Haunted Mansion. I think I'm ready for Halloween now. Look at these. These are Disney pins, Haunted Mansion themes. I think they call these Tsum Tsums. Yeah, Tsum Tsums. But these are like super cute, super fun. Glad you were here. In a moment, there's going to be a couple boxes popping up on the screen. This one is going to talk about Fantasia. And Fantasia has some wonderfully spooky scenes in it. I think, even though it is not a Halloween film, I think it's a wonderful film to watch at Halloween time. I talk in the video about Bela Lugosi's involvement in the film that most people don't know about. Also, a lot of other facts. And I dig into Fantasia 2000, and I go to the Fantasia 2000 hotel. You can see all of that up here. Otherwise, YouTube says this one's best for you, and the second channel is there, and I'll see you next time.